Okay, we will bring the meeting to order. And we'll the pledge of allegiance. Robert, please.
Put your hand over your heart. Pledge allegiance
to the
flag of the United
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
On the roll call.
Director Robert,
Present.
Director McMillan, here. Director Avila,
Here.
Director Waters is absent, Director Quady.
Here. We have a forum. Do we have any public comments? Okay, fine or otherwise?
We do not have any public present in the room. I'm a little behind on getting on the Zoom, so. Let's see. We do have some members of the public online.
Okay, so I will go ahead and read the public comments section. This portion of the agenda may be utilized by any member of the public to address the board of directors on any matter within the jurisdiction of the board. It does not appear on the agenda and on matters that are on the agenda but are not designated as action items. Depending on the subject matter, the board of directors may be unable to respond at this time or until the specific topic is placed on the agenda at a future Calleguas board meeting in accordance with the Ralph M. Brown Act. Please limit remarks to 3 minutes.
If any member of the public wishes to speak at this time, please use the raise hand feature to raise your hand and we'll call on you. There's no raised hands.
Okay, and we'll move on to presentation 3A. New staff members, Ivan Guzman and Andres Andrade.
Got Matt Gomez here, our system maintenance supervisor, to introduce the two new staff members.
Thank you. Hello, directors and managers. My name is Matt Gomez, the System Maintenance Supervisor here at the district. I'm here today and excited to announce Ivan Guzman and Andres Andrade, the newest members of System Maintenance Division here at the district. These gentlemen are making a career change, which is going to bring different talents to the district, which I'm excited to see the growth within them and the district itself. Now we're going to have Ivan and Andres introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about themselves. Ivan?
Hello, directors and managers. My name is Ivan Guzman. I live in Santa Paula with my wife and 2 kids. My previous job is named DCOR. It's an oil and gas company. And I am excited and a little nervous for this career change because it's brand new to me. So I want to thank you all for welcoming me with all the hospitality and open arms here to Calleguas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jorge Andres Andrade, but you guys can call me Andres. I am coming from Hampton Tedder. I was there for 2.5 years. So I was the one that dug the holes and did the whole power line stuff like that, just in case you guys didn't know. I am like everybody else. I'm from Fillmore. I recently got married. I have 2 kids. I have 2 little boys. I am excited to be here. I'm already having a great time here. Everybody's very, very nice, which is great. It's great. I'm looking forward to being here for a very long time. Thank you, guys.
Welcome.
I did hear this morning that it was a prerequisite to live in Fillmore. So I see it's true.
Okay, the next item is the 20-year service award for GM McCaffrey. And so I'm gonna sit back and just relax and take it all in. This is my privilege to honor our general manager's 20-year service award this evening. Christine started here more than 20 years ago as a consulting engineer at Kennedy Jenks. She was eventually hired on as a project manager, then senior project manager, then manager of engineering, to deputy GM last year, and now general manager a few months ago. She has overseen a number of critical projects, and I just want to interrupt that was receiving a prior GM's compliment that she was effectively fast with construction specs, plans, and design review. Projects that were critical were the turnout automation program, the pipe garden, where nothing much grows there other than asset value and emergency response speed. So multiple phases of the salinity management pipeline, Wainimi outfall, which contributes to her experience perspective on the broad challenges and narrow opportunities of ocean desalination in California. And 37 million plus in state and federal grant funding for Calleguas. Acted as primary coordinator for multiple grant applications on behalf of the Watersheds Coalition of Ventura County. More than 100 million in Ventura County. So she managed the water supply alternative study, Calleguas's multi-year planning effort that investigated 120 local resource projects within the service area to lessen the supply gap during an imported water outage. Water supply alternative study formed the foundation of the current water resources implementation strategy, RISK, which is intended to increase our resilience and water supply reliability under the increasing uncertainty of climate change. Along with leading initiatives in the Calleguas service areas, Christine is recognized across the water industry in California. She served on the Aqua Energy Committee for many years and is asked to speak at conferences and association events such as Aqua, Cal de Sal, and Water Readers. I've learned she was a voice of reason in the extensive Metropolitan Water District drought actions and east-west conveyance processes, bringing her experience and nuts and bolt knowledge of the western reaches of the metropolitan system to bear on a challenging political process. Her peers at other agencies and colleagues across the region look to her for guidance and as a sounding board for complex problems for both physical and political solutions. The board was fortunate to have such an experienced and dedicated professional in-house to assume the GM post earlier this year. She stepped into the job virtually, seamlessly, while facing a double-digit rate increase proposal from Metropolitan before she'd even moved offices. She represented Calleguas admirably during that process, leading a unified and vocal regional coalition, a role that will be critical to the work we'll be carrying out in the years to come. Christine has grown into a mentor who is constantly thinking of how to help her coworkers find opportunities to develop and how to help other managers find their team members' strengths. As we witnessed at the board level, Christine is collaborative and team-oriented, focused on how the organization gets out of all of its various and varied parts. Christine, you should be proud of your 20 years service and making a difference. All of us are. And we hope you'll continue to make the region a better place by sticking around for many more years. Congratulations.
Another 20. Thank you all. Thanks to President Quady. Thank you, board, for your confidence in me. And thank you to the amazing staff that I have the privilege of working with here at Calleguas every day.
Okay, so we have this.
Thank you. Yes, of course.
Got into on to items to be added to the agenda, government code thing. In here thing. Okay. Consent calendar. Section 5. You have any presentations there or just to
Nope,
take it
just
all at once?
obviously, obviously if the board wishes to pull items or wishes to ask questions, we're happy to address them. But other than that, everything's in the packet.
We just did a little description on the rejection of the crew building.
Fernando, you want to provide a brief explanation on that? By reject all bids, it's reject the bid.
The bid. Good evening, Board of Directors. Yes, so on the crew building improvement project, we opened bids for a second time. The single bid we received was about 60% over the engineer's opinion of probable cost. So because of that reason and not having competitive bids, we're asking and recommending the board to reject all bids, in this case, a single bid.
And if you have deja vu, it's because we already did this.
That's correct. And I will be giving a presentation later on in this board meeting on what we've done to hedge against that happening again and hopefully get more competitive bids.
Is that presentation going to include what steps we are going to take to ensure that we lower costs on this project?
That will be part of the presentation, yes.
Very good.
Okay, thank you.
Pano.
Thank you.
Okay, there's more discussion on the board. Looking for a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Here, first and second, roll call vote.
Director Robert,
Yes.
Director McMillan,
Yes.
Director Avila,
Aye.
Director Waters is absent, Director Quady.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, on the action items, increase the hourly rate of legal services by Winston Law Group.
No.
Yes, so as the board knows, Walt has been our district counsel since December of 2022. At that time, he just maintained the hourly rate that Cohen and Burge had been charging us. And so it's been at least close to 2 years since there's been any rate increase there. He's requesting a $10 an hour increase or 3.4%, which is well below what adjustments in inflation would dictate. So Walt's great to work with, as you all know. He's responsive, he's pragmatic. He works well with our specialty counsel. So, it would be the general manager's recommendation that you do indeed approve the requested increase in hourly rate.
Okay, we'll go out to any public comment first.
If any members of the public wish to comment on this item, please use the raise hand feature. There are no raised hands.
Okay. The board discussion. Board comment? Looks to count. I just look over at roll. Don't count. Okay, otherwise we have a room for a motion.
Could pick on the wall a little bit. I'm just gonna make the motion to approve. He deserves it. He works very hard. And he's very responsive. And his request was fair. And I will hold back the jokes and picking on him at this time.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
We have a first and seconded. Roll call vote.
Director Robert,
Yes.
Director McMillan,
Yes.
Director Avila,
Aye.
Director Waters is absent, Director Quady.
Aye. And the increase passes.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to open the public hearing. Item B here, 6B. And I guess we wait to see what we've got. Kind of public comment. You're going to do a description first.
I'm just gonna just mention that, this is the public hearing for the water rates, to set the water rates. So we did a big presentation back in April to the board. Plenty of presentations, we went through the whole metropolitan rate process. But nothing has changed since we presented to the board back in April. It's the same rate increases that were proposed back then that are proposed now. There were no changes made. We presented to the purveyors also in April, and since then we have not heard anything from the public, from the purveyors against the fees or for the fees for that matter either. So tonight we're just looking to do the public hearing for the water rates, the SMP fees and the annexation fees, and looking for the board to adopt the resolutions that are described in this item.
Okay, thanks, Dan. We'll look for public.
If anyone from the public would like to comment on this matter, please use the raise hand feature. There are no raised hands.
Okay. Well, then so we'll close the public hearing and then vote on it. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll close the vote. We'll close the hearing. And any discussion on the board?
I have one suggestion. We have a voter initiative out there that's still pending. We've done it different ways over the course of time. Perhaps we do one vote on each resolution as opposed to just doing them in one block. And in the event that there's an issue subsequently with respect to any one, not all three fail. If somebody wanted to attack it.
Okay, we'll break this out then. So first we'll look at resolution number 2091. Establishing rules, rates, and regulations for water service. Any motions?
I move we
support of resolution number 2091.
Second?
Motion's been first and seconded. Roll call vote.
Director Robert,
Yes.
Director McMillan,
Yes.
Director Avila,
Aye.
Director Waters is absent, Director Quady.
Aye. Resolution 2091 carries. Resolution 2092, establishing rates for discharge to the salinity management pipeline.
I move to support resolution number 2092.
Second?
Motion's been first and seconded. Roll call vote.
Director Robert,
Yes.
Director McMillan,
Yes.
Director Avila,
Aye.
Director Waters is absent, Director Quady.
Aye. Resolution carries. And resolution 2093, adjusting fees for annexation to the district.
I move resolution to support resolution number 2093.
I'll second.
Okay, motion to first and second, and roll call vote.
Director Robert,
Yes.
Director McMillan,
Yes.
Director Avila,
Aye.
Director Waters is absent, Director Quady.
Aye. Resolution 2093 passes. Very good. Thanks, Dan. I think that's it. So on to the adopt fiscal year 24-25 budget.
All right, so good evening, directors. Tonight, we're looking to adopt next year's budget. We did an extensive presentation at the last board meeting where we went through the budget in detail. As with the water rates, nothing has changed with the budget as was proposed to you last meeting. So we are looking for you to adopt and approve the fiscal year budget for 2024-25.
Very good. So we'll go out. See if any public on this item.
If any member of the public would like to comment on this item, please use the raise hand feature. I see no raised hands.
Okay. Any board discussion?
It's needed and it's a little small increase, but you know, it's fortunately, the public's not in a great place, so kind of hurts to do this, but I understand we need to approve this budget.
Any other discussion? Motion?
Move to adopt the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget and approve the revised salary schedule.
Second.
Motion's been first and seconded. Roll call vote.
Director Robert,
Yes.
Director McMillan,
Yes.
Director Avila,
Aye.
Director Waters is absent, Director Quady.
Aye. Motion carries. Very good. On to reports. General Manager's report.
Yes, so as the board may recall, after the last board meeting, I was off for a brief vacation. So I want to thank Ian, Deputy General Manager, for holding down the fort while I was gone. I also wanted to share some good news about the status and progress of our federal funding request for Lake Bard Pump Station. We submitted a request through Congresswoman Brownlee's office, and it is among the 13 projects that she is moving forward in the funding process. This doesn't mean we're totally there yet, but it's an important milestone in getting that funding approved. So we will continue to update the board as there is more information to share on that. It's been a very interesting month in terms of meetings. We hosted Supervisor Matt Levere here towards the end of last month for a tour and a really engaging discussion. I know some of our directors were present for that. There's been a lot going on at Met, and that's before the most recent things that are going on at Met. The treated water surcharge work group has gotten up and running. This is in response to the language that was included in the Metropolitan Board action when they adopted the rates, committing to revisiting the treated water surcharge. So there was an initial meeting late last month. The next one is Monday, and Henry and I will be attending that. There's also been, we met with Metropolitan and City of Ventura staff about the wheeling agreement that is needed as part of the State Water Project interconnection. So that is moving through the review process. And then I continue to be one of the member agency managers on Metropolitan's Camp for Water Task Force. We also earlier this month had, had Aqua JPIA. Some of their key staff were on a listening tour of Southern California. So we met with their director of pooled programs, Jennifer Job, their executive officer, Adrian Beatty, and I can't remember Kevin's title. But we had a really great discussion about risk management, some of the things that we do well that other agencies should know about, like our confined space entry training facility. And we also, I think, made some progress in nudging them towards reimbursing us for some money that is due to us under a claim on the Granson pump station generators. And then the last item that I want to report was that this morning we hosted the Ventura County Taxpayers Association here in this room. There was a large and very well-engaged group. My presentation was titled Water Reliability Insights, but I kind of gave some background and history on the district, talked about some of the metropolitan challenges we've had with respect to infrastructure and rates, talked about the RIST. They were very interested, asked some really great questions, and then a good number of folks stayed around to take a tour of the plant and up to Lake Bard. So I want to thank everyone who helped make that event possible. It was quite an undertaking. So Kara and Charlotte and Trisha and everyone else who helped make that happen today. I think it was a really, really effective event. I know there were two directors there, so if either of you want to add something.
It was a great event, and you had a great presentation, very informative, very detailed, and a great tour. So very great host for the community, and appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'm talking to some of the board members for them afterwards. Someone really realized how much goes into water now. So it was kind of an eye opener for several of them. So I appreciate it.
Excellent.
Really appreciate it.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll go on to wrist update.
Yes, so. Two. Actually, it's going to be Ian first and then me. So after we had to cancel that board meeting at the beginning of May, we felt it was just for attention span's sake, a good idea to separate the RIST part of the presentation from the rest of the discussion on the strategic plan implementation status. So you received the presentation on the strategic plan implementation at the board meeting in late May. And this one will bring you up to date on where things are with the RIST. And Ian's gonna start us off.
Great. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. So just some quick background refresher on the water resource implementation strategy. This is really building on, as President Quady mentioned in his remarks about Christine's 20-year service award, building on the water supply alternative study, which was in its conception focused on getting through a 6-month outage, imported water outage. So this and then the water resource implementation strategy really is taking the new vision for resilience that was outlined in the strategic plan last year and looking at the infrastructure and programmatic implementation portions of that strategic plan. So this is building on, as this slide says, a history of extensive regional collaboration. So, far prior even to the water supply alternative study, Calleguas has been working with its purveyors on such things as local resource programs, right? So the Conejo Creek project and the Camarillo desalter, just for two examples. And even prior to that, extensive coordination with our retailers on MET programs, including in lieu groundwater deliveries, is going back to the 90s, and then Uptel, including the Las Virgenes interconnection that's under construction today. And as Christine mentioned, the interconnection with Ventura. So we've been doing both in-service area, purveyor coordination, as well as larger regional coordination prior to the risk. But this is really a concerted effort to interrogate what other options are available, not just for a 6-month outage, but in the wake of 2022 and our reduced reliability of metropolitan state water supplies. How can we bolster? How can we reduce our dependence on MET how can we bolster supply reliability and our resilience generally in the face of an uncertain future. So the idea is really to develop portfolios of projects. Those portfolios have different themes. Some are like more heavily focused on recycled water, some more groundwater, some on resilience, some on cost effectiveness. Of course, cost effectiveness is baked into everything. But we are in the process of looking at these portfolios and kind of weighing them against one another while acknowledging risk, trying to understand uncertainty. I think the approach that we're taking is identifying and mitigating risks and realizing that there are uncertainties that cannot be mitigated or reduced, but just have to be incorporated into the planning process itself. Next slide, please. So again, this is really the like infrastructure and programmatic wing, so to speak, of the strategic plan. And just wanted to touch on a few of the priorities and objectives that the RISC is really going to be implementing. So it falls under all three categories of delivering reliable service, improving resilience, and providing leadership. And I think that the third one in particular, providing regional leadership, it's become clear to me from our very first meeting, partner workshop that was so well attended, that a lot of our purveyors and even some of our regional partners are really looking to Calleguas to help solve their problems in a way that they have been unable to do on their own for quite some time. So it's wonderful to be in this position, it's always nice to be needed, but also to have the staff capacity and the consulting support to be able to do that. Next slide, please. So this was originally pitched to us as a three-phase process, and we are taking it one phase at a time. So that what comes out of phase one can help us scope subsequent phases. But really it's divided into kind of coming up with what the projects and portfolios would be. The second phase would be figuring out how to get the community support that we're going to need for those and what the runway for implementing them to be, starting to build those programs, and then building the programs and running the programs and adaptive management programs in the future in phase three. So really what we're doing in phase one and where we are in that is, we started with interviews, one-on-one interviews with a number of our purveyors and a couple of the regional partners, really trying to understand what everyone's needs were. And, so really what the need out there was, what the demand shortfall could be under various scenarios, seeing how well we can meet that today, what kind of changes we need to make. We went through that water supply alternative studies to see which of those projects might rise to the top for further development. We started putting those into these different portfolios, and we're now running those through various kinds of analyses, right? And some of this talks about multi-criteria, sensitivity, resilience analyses. So some of those criteria that we're talking about include life cycle costs, yield, right? How much water can they produce for what amount of money? How reliable are those? How much control do they give us locally versus how much are we dependent outside of the service area? Service equity, so within the service area, water quality, permitting, and institutional complexity. So all the different kind of aspects of building and implementing and operating a program, we are in the process of trying to quantify and to concisely qualify, if we can't put a number to them, in order to have as objective as possible an analysis of the individual programs and projects that we're rolling up into portfolios. So next slide. The partner workshop 3, which Christine will get into, is on April 30th. And we have, which is also towards the end. Again, this is the third of 4 partner workshops. We anticipate the 4th happening summer, fall, and the report out shortly thereafter.
All right. So where we are in terms of the analysis is, as Ian mentioned, we're evaluating these as portfolios, not individual. Each portfolio is comprised of individual projects. And then they're being analyzed on a basis to make sure we can get the water everywhere it needs to go. And then comparing those portfolios to what we call the status quo. Basically, if we just keep doing what we're doing, where would we end up? So there's a lot of analysis involved in that. They actually looked at 96 different imported water supply projections provided by Metropolitan and looked at a couple of different demand scenarios. One is if you go and look at the individual retailers' urban water management plans from 2020, which seems like a lifetime ago because the world was very different in very many ways. Those show increasing demand. What our water management plan shows is actually flat demand. And then as you incorporate the urban water use objectives, which is the water conservation as a California way of life, you actually expect decreasing demand. So you end up with a range of potential futures. And, you've heard both Ian and I talk quite a bit about uncertainty. Well, that's what we're dealing with. It's like, we don't know exactly what demands are going to look like into the future. Historically, we thought they would keep going up. And then last year we sold as much water as we did in the 1970s. So the way they're analyzing these portfolios is start with the local supplies. These are the supplies that our retailers have, primarily groundwater, some recycled water. Then the new supply that would be contributed by the portfolio that's being evaluated, and then using imported water to make up the difference in the demand. And then if there isn't enough of that, then you have a shortage condition, which is what we're trying to avoid. But the analysis considers how frequent and how large those shortages would be. And part of what needs to be optimized as part of this process is, are we aiming to never have any kind of shortage ever again? Or are we aiming for 95%? And, 1 out of every 20 years, you have to cut back by 10%. Those are decisions that are going to need to be made because they are risk cost decisions. And those are decisions that are therefore most appropriate for our board to make. So as I mentioned, they're prioritizing existing local supplies. Those are typically the least expensive supplies available to our retailers. The proportion of imported water doesn't change over time. We do consider that Las Posas ASR would be used during drought years, just as it was in 2022. And then, as I mentioned, if there's years with shortages, you assume that conservation would need to make up the difference there. Recognizing that our ability to conserve is reduced as per capita demands have declined over time, and people have already achieved so much water savings that your ability to save more water is limited. So the various themes that Ian alluded to, of course, we have a lowest cost that is just, here are the cheapest projects. Local supply and control. Well, that considers what projects we can control here. Imported water system optimization relies more on taking advantage of imported water when it's available during wet years and storing it for dry years. Reliability and resilience is the one that considers basically never having a shortage ever again. The adaptability emphasis, it's that theme once again of being able to pivot and change and adapt as we encounter future conditions. And then this last one is a groundwater sustainability and recycled water emphasis, which is of great interest to our purveyors, many of whom are dealing with things like groundwater adjudications that are important to them and to us.
And could there be mixtures of?
Absolutely. Yeah, this is absolutely a mix and match type situation.
Yeah.
So as Ian mentioned, we started with what we were calling the Water Supply Alternative Study Leading Contender group of projects, did some refinements, added some additional projects based on feedback from some of the workshops, partner interviews that he conducted. And then we also had a series of follow-up meetings with some of the key regional partners like Oxnard, Ventura, United, and Casitas. And then they started by categorizing the benefit, because it really matters, is the water always available, which they're calling the core projects? Is the water available only during drought and outage years, or is the water only available in outage? Because you need to make sure you have enough water in all of those different scenarios, and each project has a different profile in that regard. So we're not going to go through all of the projects, but there's a lot of projects. And you can see that many of them are appropriate to include in multiple portfolios. But they did consider projects that are mutually exclusive, that deal with the same supply of water. You wouldn't be able to both use the Oxnard AWPF water for groundwater injection and recharge it via surface spreading. It's the same water, there's only so much of it. So they've considered that you can't have both of those projects in the same portfolio. You will see that west to east transmission is in here, and the way they've plugged that into the analysis is basically if there's water that needs to be moved up in the system, that triggers the addition of that component of the infrastructure, which allows you to move the water, but of course comes with a cost of that infrastructure. For now, we haven't eliminated the Lake Casitas options from consideration, but they have a higher cost than the local groundwater banking projects and achieve a lot of the same things. So you could swap them out within a portfolio, but to simplify the analysis, they've kind of put those aside for the moment. And we did not do any further analysis of just bringing in water from Met via a different avenue because it doesn't really address the supply issues. And some of these outage projects were not needed after the core, and the drought projects were included. So we did assume up to 10% conservation during an outage. We think that is probably reasonably achievable, but we're definitely not assuming that you can get to 30 or 40%, which historically has been a possibility, but with demand hardening, it's just not viable. So in terms of portfolio reliability results, I think what's really most important to focus on as we look through these graphs and step through the preliminary analysis is how these different portfolios relate to each other. Relatively speaking, this dashed line here is the status quo. You see, as you might expect, that reliability diminishes over time if we continue on the same path we're on. If we develop additional local projects, programs, and partnerships, then you can achieve a higher level of reliability. But we are talking, I mean, this graph isn't at zero. So you're talking about the difference between, 89, 90% versus 99 to 100% or 98 to 100%. And they all perform relatively well. The lowest cost one performs a little bit less well. Not surprisingly, as you would hope, actually, the reliability and resilience one performs very well, but so does the adaptability emphasis in terms of reliability.
How does demand affect this graph? Is it if it continues to, is it a positive or a negative demand?
Demand is assumed, we assumed a future demand envelope, if you will, like a range.
Okay.
So it assumes, frankly, it could go up, it could go down, or it could stay the same.
Graph like this reliability, if demand increases dramatically, then, it's going to skew it down.
Yeah, if demand increases dramatically, it would change
Reliability.
the outcome. Yeah, if you have higher demands, your reliability would go down.
Right.
Also looked at Pleasant Value aggregate costs. Once again, I would focus here on how they relate to each other. What I think is super interesting is, I talked about how we're looking at ranges. Well, the status quo upper and lower bound bracket all of the portfolios. So if Met rates increase at a lower trajectory, which would be the bottom here, then these local projects are not as cost effective. If Met's rates increase high at the higher end of the projections, then all the portfolios make financial sense. So that's another, you have so many uncertainties here. You've got the demand uncertainty, you've got the Met rate uncertainty. You have, of course, the hydrologic uncertainty. And so we're trying to account for that so that we can make smart decisions based on the information that's available to us. And once again, that's why we need to be able to be adaptable, because we're projecting based on the data we have today. In 5 years, we'll have different information to work with.
Was this created with data before Met voted to increase rates or after?
It includes the most recent data from Met.
Okay.
Yeah, we did have to change it. The first runs were done with numbers that turned out to be lower than the reality, so we had them adjust them. So kind of preliminary takeaways, knowing that we are not done with the analysis, we're continuing to address risk implications as well as timeline and yield. I think the really important takeaways here are that it can make a lot of sense financially for us to invest in local supply projects that provide greater reliability at a lower long-term cost relative to the status quo, particularly if Met rates continue to increase the way they have been. Investment in local supplies and storage does provide the greatest reliability and resilience, but it does require that west to east transmission to fully utilize all supplies, and that's expensive infrastructure. You would, of course, only size it for what you are going to need, but it's a pretty significant undertaking in terms of the infrastructure there. Drought storage projects do provide increased reliability, but basically, if you're buying imported water and then storing it, whether that's in the ground or somewhere else, and then just pulling it out of drought, you end up with pretty high unit costs because you're not using it all the time, which makes local projects that you can use as your core projects, like a brackish groundwater desalter, for example, more attractive financially. And then, once again, adaptation, the local projects can be phased to incrementally increase reliability while moderating cost impacts. What's tough you can do that with, say, once again, a groundwater desalter. You build a phase, do exactly what Camarillo did. They built a phase, they provided room and connections for future expansion. Can't do that so well with pipelines. So something like west to east transmissions, you need to decide what size it's going to be. You're not going to build an 8-inch pipe and then come back and build a 12 and then come back and build a 24. So those are some of the challenges. I mean, I wouldn't recommend it, at least. You could. So.
That's the thing that I got a biggest kick out of Ian's article.
Oh, the strategic planning article, and that's true. He didn't, for those of you who haven't read Ian's CSDA article yet about strategic planning, maybe that's why.
There's a line about pipes, yeah.
There is.
Tough to change that diameter when it's already installed.
Sure is. At least tougher to make it bigger. You can make it smaller with various in other methods. So where are we now? Refining the projects in the portfolios, working on the risk approach. This has been a big effort for me and Henry and Ian of late with the consultant team, figuring out how do we appropriately account for risk here? You don't want to overestimate your risk, but you also don't want to underestimate it. And then they're going to continue to do we're pretty close to agreeing on a methodology there. So I would expect in the next couple of weeks, they're going to get started on the analyses, and then we will look at some of the other criteria beyond cost, yield, and reliability, and determine their preferred portfolio and options. And one of the deliverables is also no regrets projects. So these are the projects that are just kind of the ones that make sense to move forward with. We had some of these in the water supply alternative study as well, like the Fairview well and a couple other Lake Bard pump station that were just, these are projects that make sense. No matter what else you do, you should do these. They're the lowest hanging fruit. Unfortunately, the lowest hanging fruit doesn't hang very low anymore. But it does hang lower than some of the higher hanging fruit. So
you created something that places the projects based on location, east, west, and what's.
That's all part of their analysis. We are not assuming that water anywhere is a benefit to the entire system. If the water is produced, say in Oxnard, it either needs to be used in Oxnard or it needs to have the infrastructure to move that water to other locations.
Right.
So the geography of the projects is absolutely part of the analysis.
Yeah, I would assume so, considering, Simi Valley and Thousand Oaks are our largest water users.
Absolutely. So this is kind of an overview of where we are in the process. We're working on the portfolio refinement. We're going to have a partner workshop later this summer. It may get pushed into September, just schedules with vacations and back to school and stuff. And then this fall, we'll be wrapping up the phase 1 report, and we'll be back to the board with some more specific findings to share. So with that, take any questions.
I'll just mention that I commend you for the hard work you guys are doing and duly keeping it updated and being nimble with changing landscape of the work you're doing it in. So very good job on that. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
Yes. Thanks so much for that.
More to come. Thank you.
Okay. The crew building improvements and networking center relocation.
Good evening, board members. Take a quick second to share my presentation, if you bear with me. Perfect. Excellent. Okay, my report tonight is on the value engineering that was performed for the crew building improvements and networking center relocation. As mentioned earlier, we opened bids a second time on this project and received a single bid. That was approximately 60% over the opinion of probable cost by the design engineer. So we performed value engineering to try to reduce costs, bring down that bid amount, and really attract more bidders. So before I get into value engineering, I want to go over the project just to refresh the project on everyone's minds. This project entails the expansion of the existing crew building, seismic updates to the existing crew building, relocation of the networking center, the expansion of the crew building laboratory. It would be occupying or repurposing the men's room within the footprint of the control building, so we would not be expanding the footprint. Adding storage space here to the administration building, replacing roofs for buildings here at the treatment facility, additional staff parking that would be added along Harding Lane, adding some electrical vehicle charging equipment, and replacement of the hydrodynamic system. Because we're expanding the size of the crew building, the water demands will increase, and the existing pump station is not sized for those demands. So some history on the bidding of this project. So the board authorized calling for bids back in December of last year. We called for bids on December 12th and opened bids on February 8th. During the pre-bid meeting, we had 11 prospective bidders. 4 of them were prime bidders. And when we opened bids, received a single bid in the amount of $24.7 million. So we went back and looked at the contract documents to see how we can make the project more attractive to bidders. We talked to some other bidders that did attend, took some feedback and looked at the experience requirements and revised the documents to allow for a Class B contractor to be able to bid as a prime, a Class B contractor being a building contractor and not just a Class A engineering contractor. So with that, we went ahead and called for bids a second time in March and again opened bids in April. We had another pre-bid meeting, only had 5 prospective bidders this time and received again a single bid. $300,000 less than that first bid, but still 60% over the engineer's estimate. So with that, we went back and performed some value engineering, and that's the meat of this presentation. And what is value engineering? So value engineering is the review of the project design, looking to reduce costs, increase functionality, with the goal of increasing the overall value of a project. So that is what we did. We hired HDR to perform an independent value engineering study of the project. This included having HDR, again, an independent design team, come and look at the design documents and also hold a 3-day workshop. As we did that, we had participants from the HDR team that included several subject matter experts. These were from all the various disciplines: electrical, civil, structural, architectural, cost estimating, as well as Calleguas staff. This concluded with a presentation by the VE team to both Calleguas staff and the design team, Kenny and Jenks. And we just received the report of findings, the draft report, but basically it summarizes the presentation that was given on that 3rd day. So here's some photos from the workshop. These were from the site visit that we walked throughout the site to look at the various elements of the project. The photo on the left is one of the 3 working lunches that we held during this intensive 3-day workshop. Okay, so I won't go through detail here, but this is basically the flow chart of the workshop. We started with HDR looking again at the design documents as they prepared for the 3-day workshop. So the various subject matter experts reviewed the plans and specs ahead of that workshop. When we met here in this room for those 3 days, we went ahead and received a presentation by the design team to get more details on the various elements of the project. Then we performed function analysis. Okay, we're replacing roofs, we're adding storage, why and how, to get creative ideas on how we can accomplish those goals outside of what the contract documents already had detailed. So that was the fourth step, the creativity step. Then we evaluated those ideas. Those ideas that were deemed worthy of continuing to be developed went on to the next phase. And then the workshop completed with a presentation. So again, what were we hoping to do with this workshop? We wanted to validate or improve on the various concepts of the design with the goal of improving bidability. We want to make this project more attractive to bidders so they can come and submit some competitive bids with the goal of bringing that overall cost down. So during the evaluation process, this is when we were getting creative, getting ideas. We generated 46 ideas, funneled them through this process, and ended up with 4 ideas that were worth considering. And 6 of those I will be discussing now. So the first idea or first option was to break the contract into separate bid packages. As I mentioned, this project entails numerous different scopes that we want to accomplish. This idea would break the entire project into 4 packages, and the first one would be the networking center. This would include the networking center building as well as the room that would be added here to the admin building. And this is a good fit because both structures would be constructed of the same material, CMU block wall. We would also include the electrical vehicle charging infrastructure as part of this package because the work is right next to the admin building and as well as the networking center. The second package would include civil, site, and electrical work, specifically the civil work for the new expansion of the crew building. We would also do medium voltage work, trenching and conduits. That work is a lot more complex than a building contractor would be used to. So it made sense to pull that out of the contract for the building contractor and have that be a package that a civil electrical team that would typically team up, similar to what we're doing here at Todd Pump Station, Lake Sherwood Pump Station. We have those 2 contracts on projects under construction right now. It's very typical of these 2 types of contractors teaming up together. This contractor would also do the civil work for adding parking along Hardy Lane. They would also do the earthwork foundation for the future building, as well as removal of some the hillside that needs to be removed to make room for that expansion of the crew building. The third package would be the crew building expansion itself. This would include all utilities within 5 feet of the footprint of the building, improvements to the existing crew building as well. So we need to do some seismic updates to bring the existing crew building to current seismic standards. So that contractor is certainly qualified and equipped to do that type of work. And also making improvements to the laboratory. So similar traits, similar experience for all those 3 various concepts. So that would make sense to package the work as a single package. And then the 4th package would be basically having the roof replacement package. We are planning to replace 4 roofs on 4 structures here at Lake Bard. If you've driven past the fence line here, there are tiles missing, unfortunately, on some of the roofs. They're on the ground, and those facilities are in need of replacements. So this aerial map shows the various packages highlighted in different colors. Package 1 is in pink. Again, this would include the networking center as well as the storage addition here to the admin building, as well as the vehicle charging stations. Package 4 is right next to package 1, which is basically the roof replacements of those 4 structures. A chemical building, pre-ozone building, the control room, and the ozone room. Package 2 would include all the civil and medium voltage electrical work. So again, that would be doing the medium voltage work here where we have our primary Edison meter, adding the additional parking along Hardy Lane, replacement of the hydropneumatic pump station, and all wet utilities up to 5 feet of the new crew building expansion. This area here is hatched because some of the civil work would also be involved in this area. Again, we would be removing the hillside. That would be part of the civil package. And then once the civil package is all done, then the last package would be the expansion of the crew building, which is in this teal color. So that was option 1. Option 2 was optimizing the liquidated damages. The entire work right now as designed would include 17 various liquid damages categories because we have so many shutdowns throughout the facility. And each shutdown has a limited duration to perform the work. And if the contractor doesn't perform the work within that shutdown, there are associated liquid damages. One of the contractors or bidders, I should say, said that they were concerned with how much work was involved and also the extensive LDs. So we looked at the liquidated damages and we streamlined them, optimized them, and reduced those 17 categories into these 4 categories. And the goal of that is to reduce the intimidation that maybe that this created for bidders. And hopefully that will improve and make this project more attractive and appealing. Option 3, we looked at the retaining wall, specifically the mechanically stabilized earth wall, also known as an MSE wall. The dashed line shows the current finished grade of that slope. And then this top red dash line is the top of the revised cut into that hillside to create the room for that expansion of the crew building. The design was designed with a 3-to-1 slope for that area. We went back and looked at the geotechnical report and found that the soil conditions are stable enough that we can actually increase that slope from a 3-to-1 to a 2-to-1 and basically install a typical CMU retaining wall and get rid of this MSE wall. This MSE wall is more expensive. It's more labor intensive. Takes longer to construct. So that was one of the items that we identified. And we're looking to revise our design so we can reduce costs. So that was option 3. Option 4. This one dealt with the medium voltage electrical work at the standby generator. So we looked at the sequence of construction for that work and found out that some of the steps that we had included, sequences that we had included, could be eliminated. Basically, we were planning to require the contractor to relocate the existing transformer. When we went back and looked at this area, we found out that the vault underneath the transformer was large enough and there was enough room that we can use that as a pull box to bring in conduits and feed those conduits to the new sectionalizer instrument. And basically that one step, removing the relocation of the the transformer, minimize the amount of work that would needed to be done during this shutdown. So that was another favorable find. Option 5, this was the replacement of the vestibule, excuse me. So we're planning to build an expansion to the existing crew building, and we were planning to connect those both with a climate-controlled room, a vestibule. We went back and looked at the design of that vestibule. It was pretty complex, required significant foundation work, and determined that a roof canopy, basically, to create a breezeway between both buildings was adequate and would meet the goals of providing a pathway between the two buildings. So that was another key find, to eliminate essentially the vestibule and provide a covered breezeway between the two structures. Option 7 was identifying areas to dispose of excess fill that would have been generated during the grading of that hillside, the over excavation of the footprint of the crew building expansion. We looked at our site and found a suitable area where we can store the excess spoils, and this would reduce the trucking of exporting the excess spoils, especially if we implement that steeper slope at the hillside. It's going to generate more spoils. So by identifying a location here on site, we would reduce costs of exporting and trucking soils to a disposable location. So in summary, potential costs, we're estimating those about $784,000. And I do want to point out that some of those cost savings are not quantified yet and are probably the most substantial, and those are breaking the contract into several packages. Again, with the goal of making this project more biddable, or the various components more biddable, bringing down overall costs, and also optimizing the liquidated damages by hopefully not intimidating contractors. So the next steps, the plan is to repackage the projects into those 4 packages and work with the design consultant to redesign, pull those various components out, repackage those, and rebid those individually. And that concludes my report and presentation, but happy to take questions.
Yeah, it's a substantial amount of money for a building. What's the bids have been coming in at, right? And you got two separate occasions, and they weren't far off from each other. Looking at your design here and looking at that grading, I imagine that retaining wall and the disposal of that earth is probably a substantial amount of that. Have we considered a different location? Does it have to be connected to the existing crew building?
Yes, good question. So I'll start with the first part. This option is actually repackaging is a way to maximize cost savings, because the way we see it, the contractor, civil contractor, would over excavate underneath the crew building, remove the spoils that are necessary so they can pull the spoils from the hillside and just fill that footprint. The excess spoils would be just trucked over to the location we would identify on site. Now, we did look at moving the building as well to the east, away from the hillside. And the challenges there were we would basically eat up the turnaround area for trucking and deliveries, parking, as well as future phases to expand the crew building, as well as replacing some of the aging warehouse and shop buildings as well. So we want to maximize that area, that space up there. And that would include taking some of that hillside. If we don't, we can move it, but then we're losing that space for future expansion as well as replacement of existing buildings.
The 4 packages that you were talking about, are those interlaced a little bit with kind of crossover? Is there some almost like a phase relationship that one has to occur in a certain point before you can do the other one?
Good question. Yes. So the only 2 that would need to be sequenced would be the civil and the building packages. So you want to get the civil done first, including the grading of the hillside, over excavation underneath the building, and then the building contractor can come in and then build everything basically 5 feet outside of the footprint. The other packages, the networking center, the building roof replacements, those can happen at any time and concurrently. And the goal is to get those 2 smaller packages out as soon as possible. Yes.
I think breaking it up is clever. It allows more contractors to bid on things that maybe they can leave out the parts that they don't have expertise in. My question is, were those 2 bids from the same contractor, the first round, the second round?
Yes, the two bids we got in the two separate bid phases were from the same contractor. And yes, a good point. We've realized the market conditions have changed. During the bid phases, we reached out to building contractors, letting them know we're bidding this project. That included Viola Contractors, who's a building contractor here locally. WM Lyles, a large contractor as well that built the Camarillo's North Pleasant Valley desalter. Experience with various trades, managing different subs. And just didn't get any feedback, didn't get a response. And we're finding out that this project thought was good enough for a large contractor. They were not interested.
So it's not big enough for a large contractor and it's too big for the local contractors.
So break it down,
Goldilocks it.
break it down and be your own general contractor, basically.
Break it down and have separate contracts packages. That's correct.
Do we know what the disparity between our estimate for this and why it went 60% over? Is it market conditions or did we just underestimate it or?
Yeah, so the VE team did look at the estimate and realized that $10,000 per square foot is more than appropriate for pre-engineered metal building. The result of just those bid prices really are the market conditions not attracting enough competitive bids.
And that leads me into, I know that, contractor seasons happen. Do we give the contractors the option to schedule when, they might have a slow season or something? Or are we dictating the schedule?
So the schedule is, the contractor is given a number of calendar days to complete the work. And it's up to them to however they staff and phase their work. But we do provide constraints. Contractor, you're giving a notice to proceed and you shall complete the project within X number of calendar days.
We try to make it long enough so that it's reasonable. So that they're not, unless it's necessary for like a shutdown, that it has to be done in a really short time to try to allow for some ebb and flow of work. But there isn't quite the same level of seasonality here as there would be in a place that has more climate.
Right, okay. Well, again, being nimble and adaptive, I think is great here. So, good job.
Thank you.
Hopefully we get more bids.
Yes, that's the goal.
Fernanda would be coming back to the board to have the board approve actually calling for bids for the individual component projects, but we've got to do a little bit of the redesign work first.
That's correct. Yes. Once we're ready for the first couple packages, we'll come back requesting calling for bids.
Are we going to re-collaborate with the contractors with feedback? Just because a lot of times, I know that this is an amazing plan, but a lot of times they can say, well, for us, we can't quite do this, but we could do this and it would work out.
Great question. So as part of the VE exercise, the HDR team did reach out to some of the contractors and get feedback. Specifically Blois, who did bid the project, to ask questions. Why was this so high? What were their thoughts? One of their thoughts was, we've teamed up with a specific building contractor that we have experience with. So they didn't take any additional bids from other building contractors because they didn't have that working relationship. Again, Blois not being a building contractor, they were limited on what teams they can create. In this case, they were going to have a building contractor, and the building contractor was going to have subs. So there was number of markups involved there. So by, again, repackaging this, bringing this project more appealable to local building contractors, we're hoping that this is more competitive and get better prices. And being nimble and adjusting to market conditions. Bigger contractors are just not hungry enough right now. They've got plenty of projects.
Yeah, very good.
Well, in what role did that liquidate? Did you get feedback from HDR in terms of the liquidated?
We did get feedback from one prospective bidder that attended the pre-bid. Actually, I don't believe they attended the pre-bid. They looked at the contract documents, looked at the extensive LD table, and realized, well, we haven't worked for Calleguas, so we don't understand that relationship yet. And so they would decided not to attend. So that was important feedback that we received.
Very good.
On any of those options, the sites, are they going to have any overlap on contractors, different contractors working on the same sites?
Yeah, good question.
And also, my previous experience with some contracts I've worked on is when you have different contractors work on the same site or on the same project, sometimes they don't mesh well together and you end up with issues. Do we see any of that?
Great question. So the only issue we see is phasing the package, the civil package and the building package. As this aerial shows, the site is so expansive that we have enough room for staging, storage, laydown areas, work areas, that would not be a problem for the roofing, the networking center, even the civil work. The two packages that need to be closely coordinated are the civil and the building contractor. So we would be calling for bids for the building as we were wrapping up with the civil work.
Thank you. I remember back when we first approved this, there was electric charging on the parking lot. Is that still part of it? And do we deem that, I guess, cost effective?
Yes, good question. Yes, so the electrical vehicle charging stations, we have a total of 5 pedestals. There's going to be 1 pedestal here at admin. It'll provide 2 ports for electrical charging, 1 pedestal at the control room, and then 2 pedestals at the crew building expansion. So we've already purchased those. We do have those. We did apply for a rebate from SE as well. Right. So part of that rebate program, we had to purchase those, and I think we're applying for $80,000 rebate on those 5 pedestals.
We'll need that going forward with the electrical vehicles.
Exactly. Yes, this is all being done in preparation for complying with the CARB requirements. Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Fernando.
Thank you.
Okay, on to the update of the website redesign. Jennifer.
Hey. Good evening, directors. So last month when we had our strategic plan implementation update, we discussed the website redesign project, and there was interest from your board. So we wanted to bring you a sneak peek on the progress that we are making on that website redesign. And before I share it, I really want to caveat that this is definitely a work in progress. And so a lot of what you're going to see is there's going to be placeholders in terms of photos and text, but we wanted to show you kind of the overall look and feel that this project is taking on. And again, you know, our website is really due for a refresh, and especially in terms of the wrist and, you know, kind of going for different types of projects and programs than we have in the past. I think there's going to be even more traffic to our website, and we just really want to put forth a modern feel and organize our website in a way where people can get the information that they're really looking for in an easy way, because this will, in many cases, be their first kind of real interaction with Calleguas. So this is what the homepage is going to look like. So I'll just kind of click into it again. When you first come to the homepage, there'll be a little bit of motion. You know, there'll be a nice picture of Lake Bard. I think we're going to do a different picture of Lake Bard than the one we have here. We have several really nice ones, as you can see around the room. But we have our district values here. And then as you scroll down, there's some facts and a description of kind of what Calleguas does. And that's modeled off of our mission statement. And there'll be buttons where you can click into our About Us page and a map of our service area. And then coming down a little further, we'll have quick links with important information that is readily available. We'll have our calendar right here with the agendas and all of that linked. And then coming down a little further, we have detailed contact information. And in this white space, we're going to have our current Facebook feed. So this will show whatever our most recent post on Facebook is. And that'll just kind of give you an idea of the, current events, because whenever we attend events, we host events, we have visitors, various things we post across our social media platforms. And so we just chose Facebook because it's a good, it's, usually has a big picture and a nice amount of text in the caption. So that'll update automatically as our Facebook feed updates. And then coming down to the bottom, this is going to be the footer on every page within our website. We'll have a staff photo. This staff photo was taken several years ago. And so we're in the process of scheduling an update because we have a lot of new faces here at the district that are not reflected in this photo. So we're going to have a new one done probably in July. And then this will be at the bottom of every page. There'll be additional links here to navigate through the site, our contact information, and links to our social media. So going back up to the very top, we have the white bar up here. That is a place where we can post news and things like that. If we've got a press release or we just published our urban water management plan or anything like that, we can link that up in that bar. And then if there isn't something really urgent to post, that bar can just be white. We also have a translator here. So if you click on this, you can see there's a few different languages that you can translate automatically our website into. And we will also have, which isn't loaded into this yet, but we'll have a very robust accessibility widget where you can change the text size, you can eliminate the motion on any web pages that have motion. There's all different kinds of settings that you can change on that. Across the top, so this is how we're organizing things. But again, we know that people will come to the website looking for a particular piece of information, and different people will look for it in different ways. So we're going to cross-link things as much as possible so that it's easy to find. But this is the basic organization where we have about us. This includes our agendas and minutes, our page about our board, our leadership team, our purveyors, and so on. And then we'll have our water this is where we keep our water use sufficiency information, as well as our water quality. And we're also going to build an interactive map for finding your water supplier. So someone can just come into this map, type in their address, and find out who their retailer is, because that is actually a question that our front office fields quite a bit. Is they call up and they want a service connection or they want something. And so we have to say, no, we won't do that, but we will provide you the information. And then it's kind of a process to figure out where they are and who their water supplier is, and then give them the contact information. So this will be kind of a place where they can come and do that themselves, but folks can still call in, and our front desk can have this open and easily type in an address and bring up that information as well. Under projects and programs, this is focus on the future. That's going to be a lot of our the projects that come out of the RIST process, and any of our active projects like our Calleguas Las Virgenes interconnection. Those will have subpages there. Work with us is accounts payable. It's also human resources, employment opportunities, annexation, construction near CMWD facilities. So there'll be all of that kind of information here. And then under transparency, we'll have our financial information, including the financial information for the board that we're required to post. And we'll keep all of our policies and ordinances and environmental documents and the public records request all under transparency. And then lastly, we'll have under contact us, it's going to be a form where there'll be a drop-down menu with lots of different topics. And so depending on the topic that the person filling out the form chooses, on the back end, it will email the appropriate staff. Right now, we have staff email addresses on the website. And the issue with that is if that staff leaves, then that email address needs to be updated, and it's kind of a lot of moving pieces to keep track of. Here, it's all done on the back end. Secondly, it makes Wes happy because there's fewer email addresses right on the website for those web crawlers to grab and send a bunch of spam and phishing attempts to us.
Yeah.
And then there'll be a search feature here where somebody can just click that open and type in rates, and then it'll search the site and pop up everything under whatever their topic is.
Is there a link to our board meetings?
Yes, yes,
They could click on and stream the board meeting.
there is. So under agendas and minutes, this is one that we do have built out here. We don't have it fully populated yet, but what you'll see for every board meeting, you'll see the agenda posted. And then once the board meeting has happened, you'll also be able to open up the minutes and the video. But again, we just haven't gotten everything loaded in here yet, but those will all be there.
Watch the video currently live that we're now streaming. They would click on the agenda and there's a link in the agenda for now, right?
Yes, that's right. And then once the meeting recording has been prepared and put up onto the YouTube, that link will be the one that this video link will lead to.
Could we do it to, if it's live, there's like a section, watch our board meeting live and click on it or something like that? Make it easier.
We'll have to, I'm not sure kind of like the way we're doing the live streaming of our board meetings right now, but I can talk with IT to see if that's possible.
I think that would be great, you know, when I go to the Met board meetings or something like that. I click on the board meetings and it's right there, right next to the meeting, watch live, and it's very useful.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I did want to show you the Board of Directors page because we do have that one built too. So on the Board of Directors page, there'll be all of the directors' headshots and the name, the role on the board, as well as the year elected and when the term expires. This link for the map will pull up the map that shows just your division and then get in touch, because since you represent your constituents in the public, you have to have a way for your constituents to get in touch with you. So we do the email addresses for board members for that reason.
Good.
And then if you click on either the headshot or the name, it will pop up the bio of each board member. So you've probably already received an email from Kara. We've taken what we currently have on our website and sent it to you in a Word doc. So if you would like to make any revisions to your bio, update it, change it in any way, you can get that back to Kara. She'll relay it to me, and then we'll make sure that everything is just as you want it when the website goes live. So we've also got below this, you know, under each director, the division map is just for your division. And then there's a division boundary map that shows all the divisions together in the service area that's linked here. And then there's a description about how board meetings work and another link to the agendas and minutes page.
Okay.
And then
4 p.m.
What was that?
4 p.m. for the board meeting.
Yes, exactly. This is why I say this is definitely a work in progress. I've got a list this long of things that we're still you know, changing. He's just kind of right now trying to build out the bones, and so we'll update things as we go through. And then this last little bit is about elections with a link to the County of Ventura elections website. Again, you can see there's that footer again that we'll see on every page. So we have a similar page for our leadership team. So another change that we need to add is we need to put the departments that each manager manages underneath their names. But similar to what you saw on the board page, clicking on a manager will bring up their bio as well. And
Oh, no, God, please, no.
Can we move Walt's picture to the top?
No.
I think
Actually, I want to ask that he has his own page.
Yeah.
okay.
With his picture, full size.
Yeah, we'll make sure that it fills the entire
Yeah, please.
page. All right. Other than that, we don't have a lot of this quite built out and ready to show you. There's still a lot of revisions. And then some of these we haven't even gotten the content loaded in yet, but we did want to give you this kind of sneak peek so you can see the direction that we're heading in terms of our new website. And we are right now actively working on writing and rewriting copy for the website and creating new material to put on some of these pages that are new that we don't currently have on the Calleguas website. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
I think it's, we missed the deadline on being able to do a vacation freeze so everybody could be in the picture.
Well, we're actually, you want to say what we're going to do? We have a plan.
We have a plan. So this is going to be, we'll see how it goes. We're right now narrowing down a date where we can get most people. We're never going to get everyone, but our consultant who does this work for us is actually really good at Photoshop. So we are going to do the photo in such a way that there's spaces, and then he'll have a makeup day for people who miss the main photo, and then he can insert them into the group picture. We thought that sounded like it might look a little funny, but we saw an example of one that he had done, and it was pretty amazing.
It was seamless. Even once it was pointed out what change had been made and you were looking for something to look weird, it didn't look weird.
Can you have them live on Zoom and hold the computer up?
Yeah, or we can just like put life-size photos of their head and we can all hold them on sticks.
Yeah, they sell them. Yeah, sticks with the heads.
We'll figure it out. We've got some options.
It'll actually look better than that.
Yeah.
So my question was, and you can try to think of every possible thing before it goes live, but I think every time you're going to think, oh, what if we did this? Is there a way to continuously update and make little changes, as we come up with new ideas?
Absolutely. And that's a great question. Right now, one of the challenges we do have with our current website is that it's very minimal what our staff is able to do. And so we do run into challenges with that sort of thing. This was specifically designed to be, built on WordPress. So it's very modular, plug and play. And part of what our consultant is going to do is do a training for staff who will be authorized to do updates to the website. There's even different levels where, you can just post a document or take it down. And then others, maybe you can change a little bit more on the website. And then he's also on call to do anything kind of more major. So if we need like a brand new page added, or we need this page moved over here, that's something that he would be on call to do. But as far as being able to, post things, swap out photos, update agendas, that sort of thing, that's all going to be able to be done at the staff level with some redundancy amongst the staff who can do it. And that's going to really increase our efficiency in managing the website.
That's great.
Good. Thank you, Jennifer.
Looks great.
Appreciate the update.
Yeah.
Thank you.
On to May 2024, water use and sales. Yeah.
Good evening again, directors. We have water use and sales for the month of May. So in May, we sold a little over 6,000 acre feet. Still short, kind of the theme of this year, at least starting in January of 24. So we were expected to have about 6,500, almost 6,600 acre feet of water sales. So overall for the year, you can see that we're at about 58,650. We should be closer to 65,000 right now. 65,000 is probably about where we're going to end up. It's kind of what I'm guessing. So we are going to be short for the water sales. We budgeted 73,000 for this fiscal year. Looking at the graphs, you can see how much short. I mean, this was actually a better month, so we are improving. We're getting close to where our budget is. I mean, it was a really wet year this year, so that not surprising that big dip's in there. And then you can see for the last 12 months, beginning of the fiscal year, we did good. Well, end of the fiscal year, middle of the fiscal year, not so good. To look at the current Metropolitan invoice, we had a total of $7,500,000 in water sales. We put some water into storage, both in the well field and Lake Bard, to a tune of $109,000. We have the reconciliation adjustment to get to the total water purchase per the Met bill at the $7.6 million, 7.6. And in the RTS, the CRC, we did have quite a bit of money coming back from LRP again, as we continue to get the money for the desalters. The conservation, we did get some money back for some of the programs we have, but we still had to pay them back $40,000 for the turf replacement program. Adding all of that up comes to the $8.5 million that we're going to owe Metropolitan for the month of May. Kind of going on to the SMP discharge, we had discharge of 61 acre feet. It's pretty consistent with what we've been receiving over the last several months. You can see that it was less than the previous year, where we had over 90 acre feet, which is what we thought we were going to be getting almost every month, but that never really materialized. Camarillo and Camarosa both have declined in the amount of discharge they're putting into the pipe. So it's really affected what we had expected. Overall, for the year, we're at 776 acre feet of discharge. We anticipated closer to 1.2 at 1,200 acre feet. Power generation, it was, again, this is for April. It was kind of a wet April this year, so we were not able to run the power generation, the hydros, as much as we would have liked. So we only brought in $3,800 for the month. Expected more around the $15,000, which is like historically what we've been doing. But for the year, we're still at $418,000 for the year, much more than what we had budgeted. We're still on pace for close to the $600,000 because the next 2 months typically are bigger months as it gets into the drier season. So looking at the total revenues, so we had total water sales of $10,400,000, bringing our year-to-date total to the $97.6 million out of a budget of $122 million. So we're at about 90.2%. Recycled water continues to be a little bit less. We're at 64.9%. We should be closer to the 90% range at this point. A lot of that has to do because of the rain. With the rain, people were not taking recycled water. There was no need. There was a lot of water coming out. SMP, we know we're short on that because of the discharge has been less, and power generation's about where we thought. It's at $418,000. We had only budgeted $300,000 for the year. So we're doing really well this year. Look at cash and investments. We actually did increase in the month of May. It has to do with us getting property taxes in. So like I told you before, we actually got our property tax money. So we were able to increase our cash by the $2.7 million. We're saving that money. You're seeing that the cash is up to $4.2 million. We have big payments coming up in July 1st. So we are starting to stockpile the cash so we can send it off to pay those bond payments. So that's all I have for the water use and sales for the month of May.
Any questions for Dan? I just have one on the SMP Camarillo backing off. What's going on there?
Not exactly sure why they backed off, but they weren't running the plant as much as they anticipated. I don't know if they've run into problems with part of the plant, but they're not discharging as much as they in the beginning. And so because of that, we'd have to get in touch with Camarillo to find out what their plans are. But I mean, it's up to them how they run their plant. It's not necessarily our decision.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything.
With summer, I'd imagine they're using more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with RO plants, you want them on and running 24/7. Like you want them to be your base demand. But one of the things that Camarillo's had a difficulty with is they assume that they could push it into their system and it would be fine to base load with it. But some of their flow regimes in their pipes and where water goes into storage and where it doesn't has made it difficult for them to run it around the clock in ways that they didn't necessarily anticipate. So I think that we're going to see like a seasonal, by the time it gets, demand is up and running in the summer, probably at this point now, the next report we get, we'll probably max out on their capacity. But it's just, I think they're still trying to figure out how to get this new local supply working in their system. So over the course, I was at Camarosa and we brought a brackish groundwater desalter online, we had to do this similar thing. So the operators, one of the issues with Camarillo, sorry, going into too much about this, but they have, their own local, they have their own city officials operators. And then the desalter is outsourced. So all the operators, because they're a contract city, the operation of the desalter itself is being done not by city employees, but by a third party. So while those guys and the city operators figure out the city guys got to move water around within their part of the system, while the desalter guys get all the water into the system at the same time. So there's growing pains with any new project, and I think it's just taking them longer than they were hoping.
Thank you. Okay. General counsel report.
Nothing specific to report, but just generally supporting the managers and staff with the district's initiatives and day-to-day operations. I will say, I've been working a lot lately with Fernando. Fernando has been a busy manager. I had some input with and talk with him about some issues with respect to the crew building presentation that he made tonight, bid rejection issues and breaking the contract up into smaller chunks. Making sure that complies with procurement policy and public contract code and those requirements. So that's generally it, but just supporting managers and staff.
No, but not Fernando's violation specifically.
No, not just.
Contract litigated, okay.
Thank you for being here. Okay, Board of Directors reports. Go down to Aqua Region 8, no report. Aqua Joint Powers Insurance Authority, I have a workers' comp meeting in Roseville tomorrow. Association of Water Agencies of Ventura County.
Yeah, on Friday, we had a committee meeting to go over the plan for the Ronald Reagan event. We discussed potential speakers, as well as catering options, and options for food, catering, and also the color guard. So those were some options, and Kelly's working on some of the speaker options, trying to figure out what we can get.
Very good. Fox Canyon.
Haven't had a meeting. I did get a call from Gene West this morning, and looks like I'm going to be stepping in for him as the alternate at the next Fox Canyon GMA meeting coming up next week while I'm in Spain.
Jeez. Metropolitan Water District.
Yes, on June 6th, I attended the Northern Caucus to discuss matters regarding MWD's upcoming committee and board meetings. On June 10th and 11th, I attended various committee meetings as well as a board meeting. And I have listed there 12 items that the board took action on. And then on June 13th, I had a special board meeting to approve waiving the confidentiality of closed session items that were discussed on the June 11th board meeting, and to place the GM on administrative leave effective immediately and temporarily appointed Devin Padier as interim GM. That's it.
Ventura Lasco.
I had a board meeting.
UCERA, no report. Ventura County Special District.
The June 4th meeting was canceled.
Okay. On to the reimbursable meetings, directors. So starting with you, Director Robert.
Since the last board meeting, couple of the metropolitan committee meetings, the one water stewardship on the 10th, finance and asset management 11th, on 14th. Director McMillan and I attended the Oxnard State of the City. On the 17th, I had coffee with our general manager. And then earlier today, collab, and tonight's board meeting.
Good. Director Revere.
Yeah, I on Sorry, I forgot my notebook that I keep those notes in. I brought the wrong one. But on Friday, I had the AWA. I believe it was on Monday, I completed some of the security training for Calleguas. I did virtually attend one of the Met meetings. And tonight's board meeting. Like months.
Okay. Dr. McMillan.
Yeah, June sixth, I participated in CSDA's membership committee via Zoom. June seventh, I participated in a strategy meeting with the Calleguas management regarding MWD's upcoming meetings. June fourteenth, I attended the West Ventura County Chamber of Commerce's State of the City address for Oxnard. And on the 19th, I attended the Science Board meeting.
Very good. Thank you.
Oh, and this morning I was at AWA for their ledge committee, not ledge, water issues committee. That was yesterday. Yes. Oh, was that yesterday?
Yesterday.
Oh, there's some, okay. I'll have to correct this and get back to you. Yesterday, my agenda. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, on June 10th, I came to Calleguas for some bond activity signatures. And today attended the Ventura County taxpayers this morning with tonight's board meeting. Discussion regarding upcoming meetings.
Yes, if I could highlight a couple of things. It's more things that aren't on the schedule than things that are. We have canceled this month's purveyor meeting. There wasn't anything urgent and pressing for us to discuss with the purveyors, so we're skipping that. We will have one next month. And also we have canceled the July 3rd board meeting. There was once again nothing time critical or pressing. And so we might have a little bit of a heavier agenda on July 17th. But nobody has to come here instead of seeing fireworks. The other upcoming meeting item I want to mention is not on here yet because we went through July on the calendar, but Aqua Region 8 has now released registration for their Region 8 event, which is Wednesday, August 21st, 1:30 to 6:30. There's a keynote from Pat Mulroy, who ran the Southern Nevada Water Agency and is now a senior fellow at UNLV Law School. She'll do a keynote, and then there'll be a panel discussion of 3 women general managers and assistant general managers, Nina from Foothill, Stacy Takaguchi, who's over the water section at Pasadena Water and Power, and me. So we will be looking to reschedule the August 21st board meeting because they are in conflict. So maybe at the July 17th meeting, we can talk about what it might make sense, move it a day earlier or later, depending on availability of the board members and legal counsel and others. If you do want to register for that Aqua Region 8 event, Kara can take care of that for you. And we will reflect it in the next list of upcoming meetings that comes out with the July 7th packet.
Okay. Thank you. Request for future agenda items. Nothing there. Information items. Since the schedule is going to be so loaded on the 17th, I won't be here. I already have a vacation scheduled for that date, so I will not be on the July 17th meeting.
You could post that, Colin.
See what? What?
Somewhere in the Sierras.
Well, I actually asked that question, so anyway, closed session, none?
None.
Okay, then we are effectively adjourned. Thank you all.
Yeah.